Hello and welcome to the AgriLeader Labour Lifecycle webinar series. I'm Kay Lane from AHDB. We've just got a few housekeeping notes to skip through and then we'll get into the discussion. You're muted, sadly, it's just us talking tonight. The event timings are from now through till about 8 o'clock. The webinar is going to be recorded because it will go up on our website afterwards. And if the survey pops up at the very end, please do fill it in because it helps us make things better in the future. There is a colleague called Isaac who's monitoring the chat situation. So if you do want to put a question in, you should have a little grey show control panel and there's an orange box. If you click on the little orange arrow box, it should pop up a question box. Type your question in there. Isaac's monitoring them and we can get those covered off towards the end, hopefully. So, right, let me get going. Recruiting people can prove challenging. It can be time consuming at best and exasperating at worst. Here at AHDB, we've recently launched the Labour Lifecycle, which is a library of online information and resources to help farmers better manage their people. Whether it's working out what role you're looking to fill, or writing job adverts, knowing what interview questions to ask, or choosing who to take on, it's a lot to do. And it's all against a backdrop where farming is facing strong competition and skilled people are hard to find. I'm going to be talking with Lucy McClymont, a seasoned consultant from Kite Consulting, who spends her time providing business services to the entire food supply chain from farmer to retailer. We're also joined by Cheshire-based dairy farmer Stephen Cookson. Stephen manages a herd of 300 cows, milks twice a day, and has between 10 and 12 employees. His team are a mix of skilled leaders, trainees, and those completely new to agriculture. Via the Liverpool Vet School, Stephen also gives students a working insight into the dairy industry. His farm continues to invest, and 2020 saw the installation of a new dairy. So, welcome to you both, and a huge thank you for joining us. So, Lucy, we'll just crack straight on, shall we? Hi, Lucy. Hi, Stephen.
Good evening.
Okay. So, Lucy, in terms of recruitment, what trends are you seeing in your role right now?
Yes, thank you, Kate, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me on tonight. Well, firstly, we are aware that the unemployment is at 3.6%, which is the lowest rate since 1974. As a country, we have went through a challenging few years with recruitment. We're now dealing with the aftermath of Brexit, with less people available to work due to going back home, etc. Many sectors in agriculture have had difficulties with the reduced number of staff available to work in the seasonal times. We can now no longer rely on overseas workers to plug the employment gaps. We also have to consider COVID. This had a huge impact on all industries and not just us in agriculture. Many people reflected on their life and job during COVID, where often people's lives changed. We now have many large companies operating 4-day weeks due to employees wanting a better work-life balance. People are looking for more flexibility when it comes to work. Can we work from home now? A change in the perception has definitely started. Overall, we do still require the labour workforce for our industry. However, tonight, hopefully we can go through some hints and tips on how to start that recruitment process. I'm eager to listen to Stephen and hear his thoughts. So Stephen, can I get your thoughts on that?
Yes, we are in a very challenging labour situation. Our competition isn't just our next door neighbour. Our competition is Amazon, Coca-Cola, same as anything. Like, let's face it, if they employ people at the shut or somebody, there's that many job adverts out at the minute. You can go anywhere and you can see one. So everyone's a competitor, and you've got to show that you're someone worth going to, and you've got to have unique selling points. You can't just all be on money, because that doesn't work. You want people to want to come to you for other reasons.
Thank you both. Stephen, we ran, when we launched the Labour Life Cycle, we ran some case study farms and got them to use the tools that we've got in the Labour Life Cycle. And one of the things that popped up was that sometimes it's really easy to dive straight in and sort of recruit somebody that isn't necessarily a good fit. So I'd be really interested to get both of your viewpoints on that. Maybe Lucy first, what your thought about that?
Yeah, no, thank you, Kate. Definitely. Firstly, no, not one size fits all in recruitment. You want to confirm, firstly, what the objectives are for your business. What do you want to achieve over the next 5 years? Speak with your advisors, speak with family. What are you hoping to set out in the next few years? Secondly, focus on the job description. Defining a suitable candidate is for you and your business. Now, many start with the advert. However, the description is key. You want to be able to list all the tasks and responsibilities you want that person to do. Indicate the number of hours, shifts available, pay rate, location. It's not a secret, so put all this information in that description. After this, it's so much easier to write down the advert, as it's very much clear what you want and what you want from that person. Do they need experience on farm? Do they need experience in following instructions, protocols? We must also really sell our strengths. Be open-minded about what you want. Remember, the advert is for them and not you, so write it for the person that you are trying to attract. Thirdly, don't employ someone in the busiest period on the farm. If you're in the middle of harvest, it's not a great time to bring someone onto farm. You're going to be very busy. How can you do the induction process? That's going to give that new employee a very, very challenging start. And obviously, you want to give time for training. So that's putting extra pressure on you as employer and them, the new employee.
Thanks, Lucy. You mentioned their job description and the job advert, and just a signpost on the Labour Lifecycle pages, we've got 2 templates. So please go and dig those out because they're free and they're there and they're available. And the other thing I was just going to mention as well, you talked about making the job advert really specific. If it's got all the detail in there, then people will self-filter, won't they, as well, because they'll see what's going to suit them and not. So that's really important.
Absolutely.
To put as much detail in as you can in many ways. So, okay, let's keep moving on. Being an employer of choice. Now, Stephen, you've taken people on, obviously, because you've got employees there. What's your experience of people choosing you as much as you're choosing them, and how does that work for you?
Well, the labour market's very fluid at the minute, so you've got to point out where you're different to other employers. So I've got a 3-day working weekend, so if they're off on their weekend off, it's 3 days, and they love it. It gives them a chance to just get themselves sorted on one day, and then the other 2 is the weekend. They can enjoy it, and you've got to be firm with those who aren't fitting in because it upsets the others. You've got to instill a team identity rather than individual identity. And right, why we're finishing late tonight? Well, it's because someone didn't do a certain thing at the right time. Right, well, come on, everyone work together. Because if they realise that they're not in competition with each other, they're actually should be there trying to help each other to get done and then go home and enjoy life, then they're more for it. In terms of filtering out people, I use Facebook a lot to advertise and to find new recruits for if someone had class as a follower or someone who needs training or someone who's in a junior level. You don't necessarily need to do a full advert as you would expect from a professional consultancy firm, because generally speaking, there's a lot of people out there with the right skill set but not necessarily in a position to fill that out, and they're the ones you want. And you can do some research with that. If you dig into their Facebook profile, you can find out what they've done in the past. And if you find, well, actually, you've worked for somebody I know, you can get a reference without actually asking them, and you can do some background research. And they'll do the same with us. They'll ask for friends or someone who's liked something on you. Oh, hang on, what's he like? And really, I know there's moments when you don't necessarily want that, and you can really close social media down a bit, but they'll always find a way. So you can find a way.
Lucy, I know you've been having some interesting conversations in your offices about employer of choice. Share your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Again, echoing very much what Stephen has said there is absolutely correct. bringing in our perspective, it can mean a variety of things. We really firmly believe culture is key to being an employer of choice. Can that person sit round the table? Are they sharing the same beliefs as the rest of the team? Farmers, we're very good at painting this perfect picture of what our farm is, but is it actually what you say it is? We want all employees to be able to work together and fit within that specific culture on farm. Do they share the same drive and determination to succeed? We must be open-minded about this. Bringing someone in from a different background, diversity, can actually often, add the most value. Also, is the environment a nice place to work in? And some of the advice that we ask the farmers, so I'm going to say this, farmers, you must ask yourself this: is what I'm doing today in my business sustainable for me, my family, and my team? Even if I can do the job, do I want to do it? So believe in the things you do is firmly what we suggest.
Okay, thank you. So let's, you've got your advert out there. You're now starting to sort of get some people who are showing an interest. Are there some do's and don'ts? How do you go about picking that right person? How do you interview them? What information are you trying to get out of them? Lucy, what do you advise when you're trying to find people for somebody like Stephen?
Well, firstly, it's really all down to the process. There's a process involved with recruitment. And again, we really emphasise you must have a plan before beginning. Firstly, again, as Stephen mentioned, have the correct level of investment for the job you require to fill. For example, the difference between process-driven jobs compared to senior manager roles. You've got to invest the correct amount of time into the level of job that you're trying to fill. You'll also have the different filters for those positions. Are these really skilled roles? Herdsperson, herd manager, farm manager, higher risk, higher reward to you and to your business and the candidate. If it does go wrong, obviously it has the potential to cost you significant time, money, loss of sleep, stress, and various other factors. So there's a wide, amount of things we must consider. Firstly, be very clear and have informative questions to allow that filtering process to begin. Firstly, these would include the right to work, legal right to work in the UK. Do they require a driving licence? And these filter questions must again be planned out in advance. And that comes down to setting those objectives, what the business wants. What type of person are you looking for? And these, at the end of the day, will save you time down, in future. And it allows you to start that shortlist process. And always don't ignore the people with no experience. I would also, say to those applying, indicate where your background's from. Farmers, we talk to each other, the culture that we're in, you listen to what people say, these preconceptions, try and have an open mind about the recruitment process and what you're looking for from farm. And also, I would also ask them, and I know Stephen mentioned it's just for a CV, a written application, if they're not motivated to type or complete this, are they going to be motivated to work on your farm or get up at 4 o'clock in the morning or when it's raining outside? And finally, definitely looking at the actual interview itself, we would always highly recommend having that third person there, just for the different perspective. That could be your consultant, nutritionist, your advisor, someone that could sit on and listen and take notes from that interview. So just to reiterate that, again, it's all down to that process. The objectives, what are you looking for? Having those key filtered questions, of what you want to gain from the application process. Indicate as much information as possible, starts the process and makes it really easy. But again, you've got to invest the time into doing those things. Stephen, I would like to hear your thoughts. What do you think from from recruiting people? What do you think the good things to start doing?
Well, I think you've got to try and find someone who actually wants to be there. That's the biggest, because if they don't want to be there, they'll never put the effort in you need them to. And it shows in small things like turning up 10 minutes late. It means a lot. It means that they're ready, they've got the workwear on, and they're thinking about the job rather than turning up bleary-eyed and just about got the wellies on, bang on the hour. Well, they're still thinking about the bed. That's a big one. And if they've got a vested interest, they'll start showing initiative on things they like and things they want to improve on, and that's where you know where to start training them. So whether it's different parts of the business, whether you want to invest in vet courses, or whether you want to, okay, actually they're more suited to something to do with like machinery or something. So then you start training on using certain machines and training them yourself. And your time's valuable. So if you're spending half a day training someone how to drive a tractor in a certain way to do a certain job, that's a lot of investment in their training, and you won't realize it. They won't realize it, but you could have done it yourself. That's even lower. That's even cheaper than training them. So you've got to invest your time wisely, and there's more than one way to invest in them. So yeah, you've also got to pick people where it's realistic for them to come to work for you. So if they live too far and you've not got accommodation, then perhaps it's to say not this time, but maybe if the situation changes, we'll be interested. So saying no isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I know, Stephen, when we were chatting a bit before, you said, and Lucy's mentioned it actually earlier, is not to be put off by people who maybe have left another job or it didn't work out somewhere else. And I'd be interested to get your thoughts again on that, Stephen, because you said before, don't be put off by that.
Yeah, well, it might not fit. Your role could sound the same, but it could be completely different. And if you've got a methodical way to show them how to do something, and then they go, "Oh, I get it now. I never realised that's why I did certain things somewhere else." Well, that's why they did it wrong. It's a training aspect, and you've got to encourage them to want to ask questions. If you're training them on something new and you're mentoring them, and they walk off and start doing something else which you don't want them to do, it's probably because you haven't told them the next step, and they want to seem busy. So you've got to be able to just give them a chance, give them time, speak to them about right, okay, we've done this bit, what do you reckon we should be doing next? Let them think about it as well, because then they're showing initiative and they feel better. So, oh, I knew what to do next. It sounds simple, but for a lot of people, it makes them feel more important and feel like they're moving on. And praise is good. You've got to praise them when they do something right, and you've got to tell them, look, you didn't do that so good. Can we try and do it this way next time? Rather than shouting, screaming, and so on. No one wants to go to work and get shouted at. Everyone wants to go to work, have a good time, see what they're doing. Granted, you can't all go to the cinema to work, but it's if you make it that actually we've done something interesting today, and they talk to, let's say you're taking on college students, and it's part of their enrollment for work placement, and they've got to do it somewhere. If the one who's come from you says, well, I've done 3 different things today, and I really enjoyed the second one, but the other 2 are more like chores, at least they sound better than the one who said, I've only done 2 chores, or I got sent home middle of the day because you didn't have anything for me. You've got to give them something to be enthusiastic about, something to go, well, actually, I'm looking forward to the next time I go to work.
Yeah.
Just on that point, I would just like to interrupt and say just the importance. Stephen mentioned obviously bringing a variety of people on farm, and I think the emphasis again is having that induction program, on that first day or that first week, to really explain, what's happening on farm, what tasks are we going to do this week, what's on next week, look forward and really explain to them, take them to walk around the farm, show them where the health and the safety, where would they get their wellies, etc. Just having that initial induction to the farm is really useful, and that employee really feels, okay, I know where things are. I can ask Stephen, or I can ask the tractor man for where to access various things. It's again going back to that process/plan. Having someone start on one day and say, okay, you're milking cows. I don't know what you're doing the next day. I don't know what you're doing the day after. Just having that set out plan, really makes the employee feel valued, that you've invested that time to set out that that's what they're going to be doing that first week, second week, and so on. So again, reiterate that induction program. Stephen, do you I assume you have an induction program when you have new starters on farm?
We tend to do a bit of a buddy system, so we start everyone off with a similar set of roles, a similar set of jobs, and you try and have someone with them for the first day. Just right, this is what you do. I've had people turn up when I've been short-staffed, and you throw them in the deep end, and they never last more than a day. And it's a very good way to give yourself a bad name, to be honest. Whereas I'm trying to, I couldn't help it, and other people won't. But I've managed to get enough people about me that well, you're doing this job now, someone's going to be with you, and they'll start to float off when you get the hang of it. But there's someone else there also, so speak to them if you've got any issues. And once they know how to do one thing, they've got confidence about something on the farm. So then you can start showing them the second thing and start introducing them, like a third of the times doing something different. And then you build it up to half, and then you drop the first thing and they're just doing the second thing and the third.
Yeah.
It's like building a wall. If you don't lay good foundations, it won't grow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
very, very true.
Yeah.
We've obviously this webinar is the first of 5, and we've got the next webinar, which is sort of this time next week, is all about onboarding. So if people listening want to hear, you know, another team talking about that, please tune in next week, because that will go into much more detail. Just going back to sort of people having that first impression of the farm, Lucy, that you were talking about. I know a farmer out in sort of Suffolk direction, and when he's looking for, he's a pig farmer, when he's looking for, you know, new recruits, he'll often take them out onto the farm at the interview stage, so he can they can see what is involved, particularly if they haven't come from, you know, from a farming background, or they've never worked with pigs before. And he said he'll get the measure of people much more easily actually on farm. And likewise, it gives them an opportunity to see, you know, whether they might like to leave one industry and come into farming. So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, predictions for the future recruitment. Lucy, what do you think? Where's it going to end up? Where's it going?
Yeah, no, certainly, as Stephen mentioned, it's, you know, a challenging world, and again, and not specific to agriculture, recruitment, and whether it's hospitality, you know, care, health and social care, we're all facing, you know, challenges. And I think really it comes down to, we've got to make our industry appealing, attractive to work in. And again, that's all about coming down to selling ourselves. You know, that first instance, that job advert, that's got to be attractive for people to look at and think, gosh, I'm going to apply to that because it says X, Y, Z. You know, it has to be appealing for people. Secondly, as the world evolves, we've got technology now. You know, a huge amount of technology in the agricultural industry. Many aspects of these machines require really highly skilled people. So again, it's trying to attract the right level of people. You know, again, for the process-driven roles, or as a, you know, a senior role, just knowing that difference between the roles. Again, the future can be really exciting. You know, Stephen and I are relatively young in this fantastic industry, you know, and we spend all our every day working in it. But how can we make that appealing to the people coming up? You know, I know many farms that have school visits, college visit, and again, Stephen's doing fantastic things with vet students coming on farm. You know, showing what a farm's like, the day-to-day life on a farm. But going back to recruitment again, what do you want out of that person coming on farm? And again, I'm referencing it again to go back to the objectives set out. What's the plan for the farm? You know, are you going to sell up in 5 years, or are you going to continue to get bigger and bigger? Well, if you're going to get bigger and bigger, you're going to have a big team to support that dream to achieve it. So again, it's all about that planning stage and getting it right. And again, the recruitment process, there's a process there, and it's following that step by step. And obviously there's challenges along the way, but it's knowing what you want and what that business wants. Again, it's a hard question to answer, Kate. I think it's, as Stephen said, it's a challenge going forward. But I think with the right advice, and certainly the advice that you guys have on the AHDB website is fantastic for farmers just to start the process. You know, firstly, what do I want, and how am I going to get it? Loads of questions and answers. We could be here all night to talk about it.
Oh, it could be a long time.
Yeah, give you an indication.
Stephen, I know you said you felt that the team leaders, the more skilled people in your business, you felt that they would want to be more involved in decision making on the farm, what equipment to be buying. You could see that your leaders would want to be more involved. And
yes, they like responsibility. So I've got someone who's more involved with the land prep and cultivation, and then sowing, harvest, and so on and so forth. And I've given him the fertilizer book, as in he's got to keep it up to date. He's got to make sure everything's correct, and he's flourished with it. And in his previous role, where he was before with me, sorry, before he came to work for me, he was fed up of the industry, and that's a great move that someone's kept in the industry, because, oh well, hang on, this is happening. I talk about rotations with him, and right, let's manage the land so we're not all on heavy wet land one year and dry land at the other. Let's balance it, and he's really up for that, and it's meant that he's willing to go the extra mile. And then I've got a herdsman who's essentially in charge of the yard when I'm not there, so showing him that, right, well, if you show someone how to do this, that means you've got a bit more time to do something you want to do, and that's taken a bit to. He understands it, and it's great, but sometimes you've got to say, well, hang on a minute, just step back a bit. And he's liking having more time doing things which he thinks is more important or more in line with what he wants to do. And when I had a meeting with Breeding Advisor, I'm not going to say the firm because I don't know where that is with it, but he made some very good points, and points that I didn't really consider, and that steered the direction of what's happening. And like it's very interesting having other people's opinions, because if you don't have the opinion, you can't make an informed choice, and it's very easy to be quite flippant and make the wrong choice. And there's more than one right choice, but there's plenty of wrong choices.
Yeah. And I know you've also said you can see that there are more women coming into the dairy side of things as well. I know you've said that, which is
they don't suffer with whiplash when the tractors drive past, which is a benefit when we're looking at cows from mastitis or lads seem to like looking at the tractor going down the road and so on, whereas girls are going, right, I'm into stock. This is what I'm here to do. That's your USP. That's how you grab them. The issue we have as an industry is this buzzwords which people don't like. They've got a negative inclination to. So, for example, if you're going to tell someone they're going to do a lot of milking, they don't necessarily like that because they think they're stuck in an unpleasant environment and they're not going to do anything else. So that's the one. You've got to find ways to get over it. And my way of doing that is like, look, we've got modern facilities. Let's go for it. We'll train you in there first, and if you show what you know what to do, and you've got a bit of a flair, we'll show you something else, and that will get you out of the parlour and then give you a chance to gain the skills elsewhere. So they all want to do carbs, which they like cute cuddly things, and they think it's an easy ride. Well, you want them right, and you want to get the most out of everything you do. So you get them right. Okay, have you done this? Have you done that? And you get them to show each other, train each other a bit. So if you've got someone looking for pneumonia, you start going, right, okay, so what temperature was it? And they give you the temperature and go, right, so can you show me how you found out the temperature to the trainee? And they go, oh, I don't know, or oh, such and such, just show me that, and they do it. And it's knowledge. They get a bit of a buzz that someone's done something, and it's because they've trained them.
Yeah, sense of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Right. So we're getting to the end of the questions. One more question to go, and then we'll move on to some of the chat questions. So if you could send, what like an overriding message out about this area. I know you mentioned your process, Lucy. Is that that's what you're going to stick to? Know what you want and get your process in shape. Is that would be your takeaway tip?
Oh gosh, yeah, I think certainly that's number one. Number two is definitely invest in people. I have to strengthen that regular communication with your staff, whether that's the WhatsApp group chat, keeping in touch with the staff, a coffee catch up, making it an informal. Speak to your staff, and again, be open-minded with the whole process. And once you have that person on board, the induction program, everything's set out. But again, my final comment is definitely, as Stephen just mentioned, invest in those people. They'll be worth it. They're a great asset to that farm. Give them training opportunities, allow them to attend knowledge transfer groups, discussion groups. They'll be proud. They're ambassadors of your business, so be proud to invest in them and give them that opportunity is what I would say.
Stephen, your takeaway tip before we go to questions.
Don't shout, and if you do, even when you're right, apologise, because you can lose people who will be better if you I don't necessarily mean apologise, but frame why you told them off or why you shouted that, look, you've done this wrong and this is reasons why. Do you understand it? And then go, right, well, that's why I lost my cool. Because as soon as you start shouting, you start saying things which aren't true, aren't accurate, and doesn't help anyone. Treat everyone as if you just treat them like you want them to stay, even if you don't, well, you shouldn't be there anyway. It's the conflict of interest there.
Right. Bear with me. I'll just scroll down them. Right, here we go. So, what are your thoughts on the interview setting? If it was a choice between going for a walk versus an interview over a table environment versus cooking. So I think that's kind of like, what interview setting would you choose? I suppose you can have a combination, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. Oh, you go, Stephen. You go first.
Go on.
Right. If you have somebody who's turning up at 6 o'clock and all the lights are off and everyone else has gone home, and you tell them that you finished work, they'll be finished work for 6 o'clock, they instantly think, oh, well, actually, everyone else has already finished. So that's helpful for them, that you're being honest about what you want them to do. If you take them for a walk around the farm and they're wearing the best white trainers and you've told them that, right, when you come, we'll go for a walk and we'll have a chat and see what happens, and what you take on the job is, and they turn up ill-equipped, or they say, oh, I've not got any well. Yeah, if you turn up with white trainers, that's a bit. If you turn up and say, well, I've not got any wellies yet because I'm completely green to this, you go, right, okay, I'll take you clean route round. So it depends on what you're after as well, because if you're after somebody to lead people, to manage, who's, to be honest, who's a professional in our industry, you're probably better off taking them to the kitchen table and having a conversation like Lucy discussed, where there's 3 of you and you throw in different ideas, different things. And to be honest, if there's a 3rd person who's in an advisory role, they can say things you can't as an employer, and they can almost challenge them, and that means that you'll get to find out what's happening in the background of their brain, how they deal with someone. If they're going to lead a group of people and they're getting a hard time off somebody and they don't react well to it, well, you don't want them on your yard. That's not a problem you want. You're there to employ people to get solutions, and that's what you're after. So it depends on what you're doing and what you want the outcome to be. If you want someone who's purely operational, I think sitting at your kitchen tables, it is friendly, but equally you want to see how they react around the farm. They're probably more interested in what the brew room's like, where the toilet is. Have you got a shower to keep them clean? If they get covered in it, you don't want to hop into your nice new car which you just spent 2 years saving for. You want some aspects where they go, oh yeah, I like that. You're looking after us there. Yeah, okay.
Okay, Lucy, do you want to take this next one? You sort of split them between you, maybe. So the next one says, how much do you balance the questions, I guess the interview questions, between their tech versus their personal interests if you're trying to find out about them as a person?
Yeah, I think,
that's situational and behavioural, isn't it? The 2 different types of questions.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic question, and one that probably goes through all our minds when we are doing interviews. I think the balance is about 50-50. You want to understand what that person's like as an individual, and also you want to, again, going back to what type of job are you advertising for? Is it your operational process driven task, or is it your more senior responsibility, huge decision making position? So again, it's getting that balance. So firstly, if you've identified the level of position you're recruiting for, and then moving on to the type of question. So if it is a really senior role, then you are wanting to really understand their technical knowledge. What do they know about that specific industry, whether it's, if it's a dairy sector or it's arable, pig, etc. What do they know about that industry? Where their experience is vital, I would say, if they're going to a senior role, finding out a bit more about them in the technical sense. But I also then would argue the point of that personal aspect. What's their interest? What do they enjoy doing outside work? If they've got family commitments, trying to understand where they are in their career also. Are they at the start of their career? Are they looking to, gain a higher level of position, more responsibility, moving up their career? It's just, again, I would say 50-50, because again, going back to my culture aspect, you want to be able to know if that person is going to fit around that table as such. So again, trying to get a mixture of the technical based, competency based questions and those personal, find out what that individual is like.
Okay. Next one, what are your thoughts on personality profiling before appointing, to make sure they'll fit in with the team? So these are like those, I'll get the word wrong, but it's like the Belkin and the Belpin and the psychometric testing to find out what color you are, or whether you're a plant or an ideas person or a people person or a team player. What have you used those before, or what are your thoughts on those?
Certainly, I'm very much aware of those profiling techniques that many companies and the industries use to try and gather thoughts on the individual. And I always say there's no right or wrong answer to to make a team. We all have to be a variety of people. If we were all the same, then the team wouldn't really succeed. We have to have a balance of people in them. I think they're a great tool. I think they're fantastic. But again, it's going back to that position. Do you need to invest that amount of time for that employee to really do the profiling section before coming on farm, or have you been able to take enough information out of the interview? Again, it's trying to decide whether you've invested the time in the interview and the process before adding another step for that employee. And again, flip it. If you were in that position applying for that job, would you like to go through all these steps? It's got to get that balance correct. But again, I think they're fantastic. But again, they're not the be all and end all. There's great other ways to try and understand, if that person would fit around that table and adapt into the culture on farm.
Yeah, they can be really useful in an almost an existing team where you've already got people, and
I would agree.
some people might not be seeing eye to eye, and you think, okay, well, or you've got two of you that are really the same, that you're very detailed, you like things written down, and actually, as a business, you're right, you want a mix of people, don't you? So they can be really useful, I think, in existing teams. Stephen, have you got thoughts on that while we're on that subject?
I haven't used any personality profiling. When someone turns up for an interview, they want to impress you, so because they want the job, and or choose not to. Well, they choose to try to not impress you because they want to see what you'll do to keep them or get them. So it's probably a way to find out what drives them. But if you put them in a situation where they're with your work colleagues and your team, and they're going, right, okay, let's do this, let's do that, let's do the other, and just see how they react with it, and whether let's say you line up something where it needs tidying up, but it's something which could probably wait, and just see if they'll do it, and do it right. Okay, well, actually they're conscientious, they know this needs doing, so they'll do it whilst they know they're not actually that busy. It's you've also got to put them in a position where they do have some time with the other people on farm, just to see how they behave with each other, because you don't want them to be pally so they disappear for an hour and have a coffee in a bag. You want them to be right. Okay, well, actually we need to do this, so then we don't have to do it tomorrow, or we can finish early, or we just it's everything's just a bit more better, a bit more looked after. So it's probably a very valuable tool for the people who use it, but I haven't used it, so I can't really say anything about it, to be honest.
It's okay, thank you. So the next one is, I heard yesterday about someone who just happened to have a football lying around and kicked it about with an interviewee so as to put them more at ease. What are our thoughts on that? I suppose there is, we've just in our agri leader team, we've just run a trial program called Walking Leaders, and rather than bringing people together and sitting them in a room to discuss things, we've actually put them on their feet and got them to walk, and to see how that, because they do say, don't they, you sometimes have your best ideas when you're either gardening or shopping or driving, and not sat in the conventional office environment or wherever that was. So yeah, actually you can see, can't you, that if somebody was moving around, they might actually have better answers than they would if they were sat in an interview chair. But what are your thoughts?
I think absolutely. I've not actually heard that one with the football. I think that's a great idea. But I do believe, a walk and talk, inviting them to the farm and having a walk around the cows or the sheep is a really good way to put that individual at ease. It's not always suited and booted round the table in a formal interview. That can be one aspect of the process, but certainly inviting them to farm, having a quick coffee, and we'll go up round the hills, round the sheep to see what's happening, and give that really informal background to the business. And it certainly puts the candidate probably more at ease. They're outside, and like you said, you actually probably get more out of that person when they are more comfortable, rather than the nervousness that you get sitting in the formal environment of the interview. But certainly I'll use the football that one. That's a great example. So thank you for that question.
Go on, Stephen.
I think it's a cracking idea, because you spend more time at work than you do anything else you do. So for starters, it sees how they behave, how they are at ease, whether it just gives you an idea what they're like, and if you can get on with them. Because if you're going to spend a lot of time with somebody, you want to know if you can work with them, because if you can't, you're wasting your time. And then you talk about other interests. You can train someone up. You can't necessarily improve a personality. Well, actually, you can't. You can't change someone's personality. You can't change them to do what you want to do in that respect. So I think it's a cracking idea, and I'm up for that.
We touched a little bit this on, because we've just been talking about walking around a farm early on, but this question is more actually talking about having a trial shift. So it's saying we always offer a trial shift to candidates we expect to offer a job to. We very much see this as valuable to the candidate to judge us and the role, not just for us to see the candidate and for us to see the candidate in situ. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really important thing, and I think that they've got it spot on. It's as much for the new person to actually establish, is that the environment they want to work in? Is it what the farmer said it was going to be like? Is it nice, clean sheds and all the nice things that they've sold it to you, this great place to work. You are there now in reality doing that trial shift. Is it as they said it was? Again, go back to that, that culture thing. We're very great at, painting this perfect picture, but in reality, is it actually what they said it was? So I think it's a great idea having someone come in for the trial shift. They also then get the opportunity to meet the team. If there's a team on farm, whether that's working alongside a buddy, as Stephen said, that initial trial is really good for the team. Are they going to get on with that new employee as well? Is there a good relationship there? Testing that, personality, is that person going to fit in, etc. So I would highly, always recommend the trial shift to get both aspects, whether that's you as employer and vice versa for the employee.
Well, it's something which I've got two minds about. You want to see what they're like. They want to see what you're like. Like you said, it's all those points. But also, as soon as you've got someone on farm working for you, I feel honoured, bound that I'm paying them. So from that moment, they're employed by you. By law, you're supposed to give them a contract before they start working for you. So you're almost, you're breaking the law by doing it if you're not giving them a contract. Well, I hate doing paperwork. So it's two-edged sword. I'd rather say, right, well, we'll treat it as your first day. It doesn't have to be in a normal work week. It doesn't have to be a normal day. It's just how it fits around your notice period for your other employer, or which you're thinking of leaving, and we'll see what it's like and follow on afterwards. But it's just the legal side behind it, where if you're going to follow legal precedent where, right, you've got to pay them and all the rest. Well, it's not for payment, it's just simply doing the paperwork, which I don't like. But
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that I'm well for it, to be honest, because you get them there, they're working with someone else, you've got someone else's opinion of them, you get to see what their work ethic's like, you got to see how they interact with people, and they're the people they'll be with day to day, which is great. So yeah, it's a good idea, but it's just got to be
Ideal
careful.
world. Just keep the legals straight.
Yeah, and I think that also refers back to the health and safety on farm as well. You know, that person is on farm, they are technically your responsibility. I would also, going back to, again, making this industry more attractive, thinking about, you know, students still in school or early years of university, the work experience aspect is another great way to open up the window for the industry and getting them on farm to learn, you know, what's the job like under the work experience bracket is another great way to bring people on board to see if, you know, it is the industry what I want to work in, etc.
Another question here, a great interview question I heard recently is, tell me about your best day in your last job, or I suppose current job if you're still in it, and their answer will tell you a lot about them. Do you have any other great questions, or do you have any other great questions, interview questions? Do you have any other great interview questions that you think are good ones?
Yeah, going back to it's trying to get the balance of the, you know, the technical ones and the personality questions. Again, that question, that for example, will really tell, you know, is the candidate looking to move to the next level in their career? You know, their answer will determine whether are they bored in their job? Are they struggling with the team environment? You know, that answer will actually determine what that candidate's really looking for in their next step. You know, going back to the personality questions, I think it's a great way, you know, to ask questions, you know, with, I mean, any examples. For example, if you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why? They wouldn't have thought of these you know, these kind of types of questions in that formal interview, but it's just trying to gauge what that person's like. Going back to trying to get the balance of the technical, you know, competency-based questions, you know, put them in situations. How would they react if, you know, someone came on farm and challenged what they were doing, or vice versa. It's just knowing how that person's going to adapt, you know, in different situations.
Tell me why you're leaving.
Stephen.
Yeah, just tell me why you're leaving, because there's a push factor there's more push factors than pull factors, and if they go, I just want a different job, well, that's not answering it. So if they say, well, this is happening and that's happening, and I don't really like the situation I'm here, then they're being honest and they're being upfront, and then you've got an idea of what they're like. Whereas if they just go, it's just, I just want a different challenge, like, well, in a week's time, do you want a different challenge again? They're not. That's not a. It's probably the easiest answer, but it's probably not the correct answer from them.
Yeah. I think as well, I suppose aspirationally as well, if you can ask what's sort of still on their bucket list, whether it be career wise or personally wise. So if you know, and then people start talking about what they still want to do in the future, you know, whether it's, I don't know, taking up a new sport or climbing something, or, you know, raising funds for something, it gives you a flavour, doesn't it? So I think a bucket list question is a good one. Right, I think, oh no, there's one more. One final question. If I were to offer you the job, would you take it? As a final interview question, I suppose. I don't think I've ever been asked that. I'm not sure if I...
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think, most situations, you know, we have loads of final questions, and many, you know, if you were to be successful today, you know, would you take up this position if offered? And it's one, certainly, it makes the candidate really think. 9 times out of 10, you would hope that the person there on that day, you know, ideally has applied for that job, so really, really wants it. However, you know, you may have said thing in the interview that's, you know, thought, maybe I'm not sure about this position anymore because they've changed the times that we're going to be starting at, or the environment might be different. I might have to travel to the other farm, which they haven't indicated. So things can change through that whole interview process. But I think it's a good question. I sometimes think it's quite a stressful one for the candidate to think right there and then. I would certainly, you know, sometimes it's better if that question's left to the follow-up phone call if you've got more questions to ask, or for the second interview stage. It depends on the situation, again, going back to the level of job that you're offering on that day.
Great.
If they answer
Okay,
if they answer anything other than yes, then they're thinking too much about it, because at that point they're trying to impress you, and if they go, well, there's something else on the offer, well, we're not committed to you. It's a no from you. So if they say anything other than yes, instantly yes, and it's like, well, I don't want you anyway, because you're not committed to me. You've seen what I want you to do. I've explained what I want you to do. This is the environment you're in. Here's the options. And if they turn around and just go, well, there's this other job opportunity I'm thinking of, well, solid, let them go to the other job opportunity, because from that point on, you're in a tricky situation, because we can say, well, they offered this much money. Well, you're here for me. I'm not. Okay, I'll pay you fair, but I'm not playing the game of £1 more, £2 more. That's not it.
But if they were in an existing job and they said to you, actually, I'm in an existing job, and I've really enjoyed like learning about your role and to meeting you and having a look around the farm, could I just sleep on it? I think that's fair enough, because somebody wouldn't want necessarily to give up what they've already got. So
I appreciate that, but it's when they're coming to you and they're going, well, actually they've got this other, if they're trying to play you off with someone else, or they're in a position where they think they've got, it's about posturing a bit, and it's personally, I wouldn't ask that question. I think a better question is, what have you seen here so far which is putting you off? And if they go, well, I don't like how that wall's just that chart's put up, I don't like this, and it gives you something to think about yourself and go, well, okay, well, yeah, you can change something, but asking them if they want, I think it's a peculiar question, to be honest. It doesn't help you, and it probably puts them in a funny position.
And I think going back to the final question, you want to ask the candidate if they have any questions about your business. You know, it's really important to ask them a question as well. You know, they might have questions that, you know, we instantly forgot about to mention about the business, or, you know, the amount of people on the farm, etc. So make them, you know, ask them if they've got any questions, because it's their opportunity right then to ask anything that they would like to know about the position itself. So that also is key to remember to do that.
Yeah.
There's another one coming here. It says, when you're writing a role profile, and then you write obviously the job advert that flows out of that, how do you adapt, or I suppose tweak it to fit the role, to fit the personality that you want to attract for that role? That's quite hard, isn't it, to get all that in the advert? I think you have to perhaps wait until you see who you've got coming through the door almost. I don't think you can call it at that stage. I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
Well, if you identify the skill set you want, what sort of environment they'll be in. So for example, my environment is that the average age is about 25, 23 at the oldest, really. So you've got to give them an idea of what sort of range of people they're on, whether they're working with a team of experienced people. So that means that you don't necessarily want some sort of personality which wants training, has got patience. If you talk about certain skills or attitudes you want, because everyone says they want someone who's hardworking, enthusiastic, with a smile on their face first thing in the morning, and it's hard to stop. Well, not everyone's like that, and everyone's got character flaws. And if anyone says they haven't, they're lying. So you find the person who you feel's best suited. The role might adapt and change over time, but you can't magic up someone who doesn't turn up. If you've got 5 people you look at the 5 people and go, well, I don't like this of them, but I love this about them. You always just do a short list of who's in front of you.
Okay, right. We're coming towards we've got only a few minutes left, really. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put another screen up, so that's the last we're going to see of lovely Stephen and Lucy's faces. So thank you very much, but don't disappear. So I am going to pop this up, all being well. That one. Yep, there you go. So, like I said, a massive thank you to Lucy and to Stephen for giving their insights. It's really appreciated. If there are any other questions that you go away and you think, oh, I wish I'd asked this, please do email them into me. I've put my email up there. You should get a follow-up email from the back of the webinar anyway, but if not, there's my email up there too. Like I said, we've got another webinar coming up on Wednesday the 2nd of November. That's all about onboarding and getting off to the right start. We've got a farmer from East Fife, David Bell, and we've got a lady from Coca-Cola, Mary Moore, and my colleague Mark Campbell will be on board for that one. You can also see the website there for the labour lifecycle pages and a QR code, so by all means scan that and that should take you straight to it. So whatever stage you are at in the recruitment process, we wish you happy finding and thank you for listening.